Hello, everybody. This is Josie Lou, and I am your favorite host at a one string show. I am personally thanking everybody who's listening, whether it's 5, 3, 4, 5, 6, it doesn't matter. We're here. Let's do this.
Sequence and logic. When God is the ultimate judge, we are simply an audience. We are just the people, and we all cross paths for a reason. The methodology that we use establishes earliest verifiable events. We confirm the time markers, we align the evidence with sequence, and we stick to logic, removing all emotions. Because to review all findings against logic, there's no other way to do it. Testing all the conclusions and verifying the results are just a few of the steps we take. The core principle is that sequence will always determine logic, but logic determines sequence. Without sequence, logic collapses. When we are already working on a theory, right? Our brains sort of like scan for clues. They're looking for missing pieces of what we believe had to exist or had to be there. Sometimes we don't find a way to clip all of these pieces together. We need to figure out if these pieces match, right? Height, build, compared to others, matching the times, both entering and exiting times of these characters into a specific event, the body posture, the silhouette, clothing, movement, gestures, recognition of other people, how do they interact? All of these clues often reveal what others overlook, not
Because
because
everybody's
they
expert
lack of the
field
capacity of it,
is different.
but because
Their
that's
field of
not what they're
expertise
looking
is
for.
different. Their
Connecting
focus
evidence
is
versus
different.
having all these
And
bodies
that's when
up in the air,
collaboration
it is
is
key
key.
because one piece leads to another. When an official narrative is thrown out there,
And then a hostage video
went to
exonerating the
34
witnesses
Fairview
before
together.
they testify.
11 people never saw him enter the home. The girlfriend hit him with a car. There were pieces of taillight found all over the place. Unmatched broken
All
glass.
caught in a Ring video
And she left
camera.
John outside to die in the cold. There are things that simply don't make any sense. Taking into consideration that this was a 1975 home built, allowing these people to migrate from Boston to Canton, you can tell that some of these characters were not all born in this household, but they all knew this house like the back of their hands.
Except
The ins
John.
and out, the
He didn't
hiding
know that
places,
house.
everything that was to somebody else's blind spot, they knew exactly where they were.
How about Karen?
For
Did she know?
someone with a specific height,
Did she know where she
taking a
was?
specific type of walk towards in or outside that house,
Every
it
single
takes a
road around
different
it.
amount of time,
And who lived where?
right? Different distance. The time travel analysis against the key points, you have to collapse every single event and simultaneously take into consideration that there were situations and events happening that we may not all know about. But logic tells you that if all of these characters were together or played a role or played a part or interacted, positioned themselves, the relationships between one another, between the time or prior to
Did
coming
Kevin
to the
ask
waterfall,
Chris
then you
to
have to look
invite John to
backwards.
the
You
waterfall?
gotta go back. What happened
Did
before the
Kevin ask
waterfall? The
Chris on
hillside.
his way back to
What happened to
Massachusetts
John
to
and Karen
invite
before the waterfall?
John to the
C.F.
waterfall?
McCarthy's. What happened before the hillside for some of these characters? A road trip. What happened prior to that road trip? Well, there was supposedly a funeral in New York. So all of these events, at one point or another, they collapse. The locations of these characters and their potential interactions play a key factor when you try to focus on the common denominator of what their narrative is.
They're lying. They're all lying.
Conflict one is that Karen and John left the waterfall from the Walgreens parking lot at approximately 12:13:48.
All this
An
while
accident
Janice is
is
still in the
structurally
parking lot waiting
inconsistent
on
and
Matt.
impossible. When Karen proves to be at Meadows Avenue, connecting to the Wi-Fi at 12:36 a.m. Simple. Commonwealth claims that Karen hit John between 12:40, 12:45, then they changed their times. The Lexus was a big deal. They're sending it to Texas to get the data extracted, but it came back empty because they never made the same fuss about sending the Lexus to Texas as they did when the data came back from Texas. The lack of information and the absence of some of key events, it's pretty important. At the end of the day, John's injuries were not caused by a car. When you identify the involvements of what led from one event to another, plus the fact that there was a dog present at 34 Fairview, which was missing in action the morning of. Dog didn't bark. Policemen were walking in. Nobody even talked about the dog. They had forgotten about the dog. In the middle of all this chaos and planning and putting together narratives and having family members write down a timeline so they could all remember, recite, and say it verbatim at court, is what actually proves that none of the testimonies from any of these people are supposed to be taken for granted.
Holy shit.
And actions speak louder than
When you're
words.
already working on a theory, scanning for clues and those missing pieces is key.
As well as putting together the puzzle.
Always,
Full circle.
always.
Let's protect our own.
A lie becomes the truth, right? When not caught in
Family
time.
and friends we love.
But if the conclusion collapses, when placed in order, it was never structurally sound. And that's why you never stop looking for clues. You never stop asking questions. You never stop trying to find out what event led to the next.
At least until we find out what happened to John O'Keefe and we get justice in his name. Thank you for listening.